Yeah, we might as well. I mean, there's no one here. Yeah. We good to go?
Yep.
Okay, this is the Town of Sutton regular meeting of the Board of Health. My name is Bill Fredericks, and this session will be taped per the open meeting law. And our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Now, I'm the only one in the room who was here for the minutes. I will sign off on it, but would have to
Vote at the next meeting.
vote at the next meeting. Thank you for Judy for doing the minutes. Appreciate it. Okay, next, local upgrades, variances, none. Review Jim Malley local upgrade approvals. That none too?
If there are none in your packet over there, then there probably aren't any.
Nope.
Okay,
Department update.
department update. Flu season has started, 5 flu clinics going through all the towns. There are deliverables for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coalition, Region 2, and we have to do actual drills for our setup. So doing a flu clinic will constitute as a requirement, and it has been done in this town already, as well as some of the other towns that I work in. So, yeah, so we're moving right along, but other than that, I have a student that is from Fitchburg State College. She's doing community/public health nursing. And she is a nurse already, works in the OR at UMass. So she's getting a little experience with me to see what it's like to be out in the community. So she'll probably be coming to a meeting, just kind of listening in at some point in time. She needs like 45 hours of hands-on community work.
Great.
So she came in actually to meet me on Friday, and she ended up staying with me for 3 hours as we listened to a complaint on indoor air quality from a state subsidized funding, housing authority. Brought it to school. So we had a little issue at school with, some food and stuff like that. So we worked through that, and so she got a big, broad view of what I do.
Nice.
Yeah. And she's going to help us work at the flu clinic on Tuesday from 4 to 7 at the town hall, which is going to be here. So I expect to have a large crowd. So.
I'm sure you enjoy the help.
I got that right. So other than that, that is about it.
What do you expect for the flu this year? Bad or?
I haven't heard a lot of activity, but it's interesting because, they pushed it out early. They want us to get it out early, things like that. Also today I was on a webinar because I was just notified that there's been some talk about it in the past couple of days about a hepatitis A outbreak in the Commonwealth.
I heard that on the news.
Yeah, it's not in our area, but still, they want to set up a lot of clinics, and they're looking for nurses, so they reached out to me to see if I could help them with their clinics. So I said I'd see what I could do to get them a hand, but they're trying to reach a broad range of people. So.
Where is it located now?
It's close in the Boston area, Boston and the suburbs. But it's rather interesting. I was not aware that in Tennessee and in Kentucky, they've had like 2,000 and 3,000 people.
Wow.
Recently.
What's hepatitis A? Which one's that?
That's contaminated food and water. It's also with it's close with homelessness and people that are incarcerated, and that's what they're seeing. Some of this population that's being affected by it.
Yeah.
There's also comorbidities with hepatitis B and C, sharing of needles and things like that. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it's highly contagious. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Discuss a policy for deed restrictions. At what point is it to be required?
Did everybody get a little,
Yeah.
the email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement, that's fine. I mean, from what I've seen, towns go back and forth, some require for the CSD initially. some required before the permit's issued, so Jim seems to feel strong about doing it before. It's, again, it's a deed restriction, it really doesn't, unfortunately, hold much. I mean, we see tons of deed restriction homes that still have 3 bedrooms,
Yeah.
you know? So it doesn't, it's just another step to say, hey, we tried to do something.
Try to keep them
So-
compliant.
Right, so just, I mean, it's the only thing that it didn't, like, as far as Jim says, a lot of people, like, don't get their COC, but it's like, you know, how far are you gonna split hairs? So it doesn't, you know, as long as it's done and there's a set policy, so you do it before, it's fine, if you do it after, it's fine. I don't see a big difference in the outcome of what's gonna happen. So, I mean, before is fine. I mean, you get all your paperwork in order, and before the permit's issued, show us the deed restriction, and be done with it.
Jim
So-
would like to see it done before issuing the construct permit, because that way they get their feet are held to the fire and they get it done. We've had some issues in the past where he never got one, or we got one late, or things like that. Because once that construct permit gets out, there's no way of stopping things or whatever.
Right, yeah, COC, but like you said, in
Right.
some instances, people don't need it.
So do we need to come up with a vote on this at some point, or put language in, or how?
I would think it'd probably be added to our local regs.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And we do have local regs that Jim has, so, and,
Right, so that would probably be added to that when we're looking for it, and it's a requirement. As far as
Okay.
it goes part of his design approval or whatever.
so do you wanna vote on that, or, what would you like to do? Make a motion that,
Make a motion that it be added to our supplementary Title V regs.
Okay, and what,
and that it's, you want it done
all
before,
4 of these points?
you want it done before issuing the construct permit?
Yeah, so, I'll make a motion to require deed restrictions to be, supplied prior to construction permits being issued, and adding this regulation to our supplementary Title V regs.
What about the,
So deed restriction will cover all that.
right, okay,
That's all deed
Yeah.
restriction.
okay. You wanna second it?
Do we wanna have discussion with the other board members, or are we comfortable with just the 3 of us?
I'm pretty comfortable. I know Diana stands the same way. She had made the comment that she'd like to see it beforehand. So it's just a matter of whether it's before or after. So it definitely needs to be done. So
I'll second.
Anybody opposed? No, okay.
Okay.
Old business, we already did that, didn't we? Oh,
No, the old
was
business
the
consists
follow-up,
of,
okay. The well regulations. What are we doing with
you
it?
want, Jim is reviewing, the well regulations. So there's, some things that has been brought to his attention from Judy, and so he thinks that, he's gonna be reviewing all the well regs again, so.
Do we have a timetable on it?
No, because it was just discussed with him just this past week, I believe, because of some issues that have come up.
Okay. Issues that we need to know about, or?
No, it's just, again, it's wavering back and forth about some things in, some things out, and, labs, things like that.
Okay. Are we doing the same then with Title V with Jim?
Yes,
Okay. No timetable on that either?
I am not familiar with that, but I can check and have it, something set for the next meeting.
research and review implementing fine schedule.
Yeah, I will tell you that Judy and I have not had a chance to look at that, but I will say that we would like to have some fines to our schedule, because we have a lot of people that do not submit their permits on time, and we have to hunt them down and stuff like that, and we really don't have a fine schedule in place that's consistent.
Would you, do you know about any other towns who have the,
Yeah.
and we could kind of mirror that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
Weren't we working on nuisance fines already?
Yeah.
What's
well,
that?
Yeah.
There's a whole,
We had done the nuisance, we were looking at the nuisance fines
Mm-hmm.
for a while.
I actually found something on, it's in here, so we'll talk about it later. So we'll look at other towns then.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that the fines would be specific to some of the things that you've already gone through, or? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And research nuisance, implementing regulations. We talked a couple times about having them or not having them, but we decided to have them because it would be just a tool.
right,
Yeah.
But I found that in the Mass State Law, the Section 122,
Mm-hmm.
so the Board of Health shall examine into all nuisances, sources of filth, and causes of sickness within its town or on the board of vessels within the harbor of such town, which may, in its opinion, be injurious to the public health, shall destroy, remove, or prevent the same, as the case may require, and shall make regulations for the public health and safety relative thereto, and to articles capable of containing and conveying infection or contagion, or creating sickness brought into or conveyed from the town, blah, blah, blah. It says, whoever violates any such regulation shall forfeit no more than $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, then we can start there. The thing that I was kind of wondering about initially was what's going to be considered a nuisance. It's going back to the hens.
Nuisance is a broad.
Exactly. This
uh,
kind of defines a little bit more
Mhm.
to if it's going to be injurious to the public health, but then
Mhm.
again, you could probably finagle that definition as well.
right.
You know, the guinea hens or the public health because of the droppings or whatever.
Mhm.
So at least you have a state thing to
Yeah,
go by.
yeah.
And I don't know what you guys feel for would be reasonable. Do you want to have like a tiered thing or first
I think
offense?
lots of times we really don't like to fine, but when we don't have any resorts, that's like our last resort with teeth in
Right,
it.
just having it in
You
there.
know, a telephone call usually starts out first, so we do a letter, and then it comes to the board, blah, blah, blah. So we try to resolve it without fines if we can, but
You could use it as
there
like
are
a
sometimes.
decisive measure too, notifying them that fines are and can be in place.
Mhm.
Things can't be rectified, you know?
Right, and I think sometimes when they realize there's money involved with something that they're
Right.
not gonna comply with, then they
Right.
would be able to comply in a more reasonable
Yeah.
manner.
So we decide to do it. Now it's just a matter of how much.
Well, if you
Instruction?
want, when we get the fee schedules from the other towns, I know that a lot of the other towns have fines, we can also look at theirs just to kind of see what the other towns have,
Okay.
and then we can go from there.
All right.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, and you know, as we talked about before, it's probably something we'll never have to use, but it was
I hope we don't.
in
Yeah.
one instance we could have.
This, yeah, I mean,
then what do
that
you
was
do?
the most recent one, but we've had some instances in the past where, you know, we've given people time and time and time, and
Oh yeah.
time
Yeah.
means nothing to them, and our hands are tied, so,
Right.
but yeah. So I will try and get some, fees for next year, next month's meeting,
Okay.
all
What
right?
is, Notice it's not on here. I don't know if I missed the meeting or not. Whatever happened with the 27 Carrier Lane septic?
Where did I,
It's on,
That was,
it's on the minutes from the last meeting, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
they looking for a local upgrade?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, the last set of minutes.
John Silverberg made a motion to approve the following. Presby system, SAS is 45 feet from an existing well that services both 27 and 31, and 31 inches to wetlands, 2 feet offset to groundwater.
Now, have we ever add that to our local regs? Did we ever change our local regs on that?
From
As
what?
far as, remember we were talking about variances to offsets to wells? Have the wells tested prior to issuing a variance to them? Did we ever put that into play, or?
No, but I think we talked about it, but maybe we should put it in, just to make it just,
Because we've just ran across it again with another engineer where they kicked the well test and they believed it was contaminated prior to them even putting the system in.
and they never had a check before,
Never had a check before.
yeah.
I think it's just huge. I mean, you're issuing a variance, you know, almost like the ones we've issued with the people that come in and discussed it, you know. It's, have you well tested right now? If it comes back with an issue, you know what I mean? Then later on, when they go to sell their house, after
Right.
the COC's not good anymore, could be just 3 or 4 years later. Now they have to test it, and if it doesn't pass, what do they do? You know?
Right,
I've had an instance where the person hadn't been drinking out of the well for the last 5 years because their well was garbage. And a
Whoa.
variance was issued, and nothing was ever stated until I went back to do an inspection there, and the system was only 4 or 5 years old. And the guy's like, his well ain't gonna pass. He doesn't even drink out of it. It's junk. Well, what do you do? You know what I mean? That's a tricky situation. There's no documentation saying that it wasn't. You know.
Right.
So, I mean, and it's a cheap test. It's not an expensive test.
No,
it's just a
it's-
Title V test. Just coliform, nitrates, and
And
nitrate.
E.
Yeah.
coli, yeah.
So it's a, $100 and something test, whatever, $200 test.
That's one of the most reasonable tests for water
Yeah.
there is. And it's a basic test.
So we're gonna require that.
Yeah, and if it comes back high, it's nothing. I mean, they can be notified that it's high. They have it checked out, but at least that can go on record. And then if it comes back high again, you can see what the numbers. If they jive with how it came back, it was like that before.
Yeah.
So that's just a common variance that you run across a lot, especially on lakes and stuff. There's a high turnover in those houses and stuff, so they're going to
Right.
Title V's, and then people are going to be stuck in situations where they're going to have to be cleaning people's wells. And they were probably like that before they even went in,
Right. But there's no proof.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no documentation for it.
Okay. Research reflexology spa regulations.
No, relaxology, right?
I was crazy over this. So what's the reason why we brought this up to begin with? Because of Sutton? Because one in Sutton?
No, this was brought up a while ago, and it just kept getting rolled over monthly on the meetings, was because some of the towns were looking at regs or things like that, and there were no state regs
No.
for these. But one town did have them, and I believe it's a town on the North Shore someplace, and she put them in and just wanted to know if anybody wanted to, put them into our town. We don't have anybody in town doing reflexology at the moment, but there are in surrounding communities reflexology.
Yeah, I mean, it could be here. I mean, there's
Oh, yeah, it can
Grafton,
be
there's
here.
Whitensville, there's Webster, it's all around
Yeah.
us.
It
So what's
is.
this one we have? It's relaxology?
It's relaxology because they have that I could see, there's no certificate. The reflexology people that are in it professionally are members of a couple of different
Associations. Yeah,
associations.
professional associations.
They also and to be in the associations, to be certified, they have to take classwork, and then they have to take like a good long hours of actually doing it. They get certified in their foot first, and then they have to go to a whole other thing to get certified in the hand. It's just the hand and the feet. And if it adds credibility if you're a member of one of these
Right.
two big organizations, because they have the requirements. There's, only North Dakota, Tennessee, and Washington is their licensing laws. In New Hampshire, in 2010, jumped on board because, as I say, I spoke with the woman who owns the one in Whitensville, and she was telling me that they had a huge problem in New Hampshire, and that's why they went to licensing. So I think it would be a good idea to get out ahead of it before something happens. Now, statewide, what that means for Sutton, I don't know. But we are allowed to make rules or not restrictions, but requirements for them to be in our town doing this. And I wanted to just know how far you wanted to go with it.
I think it has been on the agenda, it's just rolled over on the agenda month after month.
Yeah.
She just wanted to kind of put it out there,
Now,
as it was brought up.
the relaxology in town, can we not have any say in that until we get?
I don't know about that, because massage therapy is kind of regulated by the state in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of like falls under the, I can't think of the board of registration that it falls under, but falls under like with the cosmetologists and things like that. But as far as the one we have in our town, I don't know.
I think they went to the reflexology because we're one of the 32 states that's exempt from the massage law as well for reflexology. But, and I guess that was the name of it at first, but then they changed it. So they want to get out, they wanted to get under the no restrictions for massage, but now they're not reflexology anymore. So what is relaxology, and is it a massage or not? The Facebook page shows stock photos of massages and one video of a customer coming in and following the owner or the person working there into a room where there's a massage table. So
Maybe we can do some more, get some more information and get back and talk about it and kind of maybe pinpoint what we want to do with it.
right, because there's also the other things that are on the Facebook page is the fees, and it doesn't say what the fees are for, only the time versus money. So, and there's no description anywhere on the Facebook page, and they don't have a website of what they do.
I have a brochure downstairs, my own personal one, of a reflexology that I was looking into. And I can just show it to you because they also do massage and everything else. And it has listed the fees, the hours, the type of massage, things like that. So,
They're not even supposed to do massage and reflexology. Hands and feet,
unless you're a massage therapist, people can be both.
yeah. Well, it's pretty ambiguous in the state of Massachusetts.
It
you
is,
know, it's-
it is. And there's a lot of other body work that practitioners do that they don't need certain specifications for, things like that. But it's a lot of different avenues that body work falls under. We can talk more about it. I'll bring more information in next time. As a former therapist, I'm very well aware of those.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was an education for me this week. I looked it all up. Anyways, so we'll look at that. I'd like to kind of get it off of our plate.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, 'cause it's been on for month after month,
Right.
but, yeah, maybe we can just kind of,
If we don't think it's an issue, then fine, but, again, you probably, would spend all, our whole lives trying to come up with regulations on stuff that we don't have yet.
Mhm.
But there's enough of them around, and now with this one down there,
Right.
I don't know what this one's doing,
Mhm.
you know?
We can more than likely go down inspection if you'd like to.
I don't wanna be accused of anything down there, so,
Well, just saying.
yeah.
Can only inspect the gadget hat.
Gotcha, Clouseau. Other business not anticipated.
I just wanted, just to go back to, under our old new business, discuss the policy for letters for various situations. Yeah, this was the letter request that, somebody was looking for, and things like that. The situation did get resolved, but, it's difficult because we don't write letters.
Well, here's the point that I had, is that I'm sitting here and I say, well, she gives me something with Sutton, the town of Sutton logo on, not logo, but header on it. Will you sign this? And I said, I'm not signing anything that you bring it to me. But I don't mind signing something that says that we invite. But then I get told we have a no letter. So I mean, I kind of felt like, well, thanks for telling me. I didn't know that. So if we're gonna have that policy, then my thinking is that I want a written policy. I wanna have something to point towards and say that, no, we decided back in 2018 that under no circumstances do we write letters on anything. Instead, she says, well, Judy was saying, well, I want it to be like a rule of thumb that we don't. But I just grew up in the Boston world where if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And, it could be rule of thumb for this guy, and then the next guy comes in and we do one. So I want to be able to point to something. I sent you an email and say if you have seen anything, or if anything could be drafted, or is it simple enough as saying that the Sutton Board of Health will not write letters to any other agencies. As I said to her, I said, this is on film. It's going to be in the minutes, so you can prove that we discussed it. But we're not gonna write letters for a bank, because that can only turn around.
That puts a lot of, the liability comes on back to the town and to the board.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't, it's the Title V.
Right.
And that's usually the banks want something saying that the septic is in good repair. Well, you got your Title V for it, yay or nay. And unfortunately, they want to just see something that says pass, but the situation in this instance was corrected, but the institution would not look down the rest of the pages for that. They didn't like the top of the letter, and that was it. But what got us was the fact that, and I wasn't at the meeting, was that letter was put on letterhead from Sutton, I believe. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Fraudulently? Because no one on our end wrote it, so somebody kind of piecemealed and put that together, and I just don't know. So that was not very good.
No, and the tone and tenor of that wasn't that good either.
Yeah, see,
I
I
just
missed.
didn't like the decisions that we were making, and the decision was pretty clear cut, I thought,
I have to tell you, Judy and I had worked with both of those parties, I can't tell you for how many hours, discussing it, explaining it, and everything else. And it could have gone back to the original Title V inspector, but he did not want to do anything to make any amends or whatever. And then it went further after that.
I think sometimes we're at a disadvantage of not knowing the backstory. Are we not allowed to know the backstory with the open meeting laws?
I think you could have known. I wasn't here, so I would have been more than happy to tell you the hours that we've spent with both of those parties, explaining everything to them and why we don't do it and we can't do it. It's not the first time that anybody's ever come to ask for a letter. We're just the messenger, and we're just the receiver of a document.
Right.
We don't inspect it. We take it for face value. We don't even know who the person is that's doing this inspection.
Right, so,
And we've had a conversation, go ahead, you
on
can
a
finish
further
that up.
evaluation, so there's a spot on a Title V that says, the system requires further evaluation from the Board of Health. That's a condition. Okay? So what they're looking for is a result from that condition. So the result from that condition is the Title V, copy of the Title V gets approved by the Board of Health and filed with the minutes attached to it, saying that the board approves and accepts this Title V, accepts the condition under it, or does not accept, and the system fails. So there has to be some sort of documentation attached to that thing stating what it could be as easy as our minutes, because that's a letter stating what we said. So they have to have some documentation attached. We have to provide documentation to a further evaluation. How you want to produce it is however you want to produce it.
Was that what was on this
I
though?
was gonna say, is that the case that we had in front
I
of us?
think it was.
there-
It was
further
part of it,
evaluation.
but it needed further evaluation, it was because it needed a water test. The water
Right.
test was done and it passed,
Mhm.
but the Title V top sheet did not change to a pass.
Right.
And that's what all the bank wanted to see, was a pass on the Title V on the front page.
Right.
Which is an hour.
Which we can't do.
We don't do,
Right.
so.
So, that's the only thing you run into, but again, you could still have a no letter policy, and easy as just attaching the minutes to
We
it, because it
tried that, but we were
documents.
they were gonna,
No, not on this particular
Right,
case, but in
right.
the future. And you could say that's how we document our further evaluation, there's the decision by the board, in the minutes.
Yeah.
A copy's attached to the Title V, you can give them a copy if you wanna give them a copy for
and
20
I
cents
do,
a page or
and
whatever.
I do believe that was written in the email. The email said that this was the results, this is what we did.
Right. Some
then-
boards write a letter. Some boards will write to the Title V inspector and the client or the addressee saying, on this date, the board met, this was their findings. With these findings, the Title V turns into a pass on this decision. So it kind of covers, you're not saying that the system's working or nothing, you're saying under this condition that was discussed, the Title V is passed through us, basically.
The Title V is one thing, but they're looking, a lot of institutions are looking for that the septic system is in working condition.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with us. They just have to read the report.
That's right, but they want it in writing on our letterhead. and
Yeah,
that's-
no, that has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
But so there's a couple different ways you can handle it. I don't know how we want to handle it. I mean, writing a letter is just more time for people. You know what I mean? I guess you could document it from
I don't
that.
know, did you all get one of these that Judy and, I said Jim's opinion?
Yeah, they don't want letters written.
Right, they don't want to write letters unless it's board approved or whatever, right?
Yeah. Unless they wanna come to a board meeting and the board does something.
But like I said, our further evaluation from the Board of Health, that is a board meeting. So how do we want to follow up our documentation on a further evaluation from the Board of Health?
I would go with the minutes. I don't write any letter,
So,
and which is basically what we told them. But that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to get out now because the mortgage was like within a couple days, we were gonna lose the rate or whatever. So we can't help that. I mean, I think we're pretty good as far as,
I've
Helping
had
people out.
realtors just pay for another Title V inspection.
And that was the end result.
They'll get people to do them for breaks or whatever. If that's what the bank wants, that's what they have to pay for. And someone require that.
Yeah.
And there's
And I
nothing they can
believe,
do
you
to
know, they
change their
tried-
mind.
They tried to speak with the original Title V inspector, and
Title V's are good for 2 years, 3 years if
I
you
think
pump it
he
every
was
year,
not,
same
he
as a
wasn't returning
COC.
phone calls after a while.
Some banks require it, if it's not within a year, they make you do another one. Sorry. You know what I mean? Go borrow the money from somebody else. They can make their own rules, you know?
yeah,
And a lot of them don't understand what a Title V is, and they just look at the top page, they don't go down the rest of the pages.
Right, for realtors in a hurry, I give them the top page.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 or 3 weeks, you get the rest of the report. That's all they need is the top page to the pass. All the bank cares about. Yeah.
So,
It has nothing to do with us.
So do we have any thoughts on whether or not we should have a policy?
As far as the letter, I mean, it could be, you can make it as easy as part of, it's board approval, case by case, in case something does come up, I don't know.
I would say probably not a policy, like if it's an internal procedure,
yeah,
something that guides Judy,
not a written rule.
but
She
not
wants to be on the
something
same
that's-
page, yeah.
So that way it's just consistent.
Right, so
If
the
Judy
procedure
would
is
leave,
we
then
don't
the
do
next person
letters,
would know.
right?
Right.
If
And-
the
and-
issue's pressed, you could bring it before the board.
That's exactly
and
what she was
ask
gonna,
them.
and that's exactly what happened in this situation. And we've had numerous people asking us and everything else, and we just say, we just don't do this. It's not our policy, and we explain the reason why, and after a while, they get it, and they know. And they realize that there are not a lot of towns around here that do that, if any.
I just wish I knew of the policy before I spoke, you know?
You
I
know,
didn't know.
so,
But what ended up with that, I thought we had other issues with people having us write a letter,
we don't write letters.
Sorry.
or trying to make us write a letter,
Yeah. It puts a lot of liability on the town, it really does.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes. Okay, so, we've had some conversation with somebody on, Lake Manchog, for about a month or two regarding, an algae bloom. And so, I just wanted to show some pictures, of what she has, this lady has, given to us. But anyways, what it is that I have finally referred her to the state, beach division and harmful algae blooms. There's nothing that we can do as a board. I know she called the police department, last weekend, I believe, regarding an odor and stuff like that. And they both went out, and Jim Malley's gone out a couple times, couldn't smell anything, didn't see anything, but, it's pretty extensive. It takes a long time if you just wanna read it, but I just wanna let you know that I did refer her to, Mike Salona from the beaches, at the State Department of Public Health to, kind of follow up. And, this last one, Jim Malley made 3 site visits, 18th and 20th, did not smell any odors in the vicinity of 6 Minden Road, regarding septic issues, things like that. So, I think a lot of that was pertaining, that she thought was pertaining to the algae bloom from the water at Sutton Falls that she claims is being released into, Lake Manchog. So, that's it. So there's a lot of documentation here if you wanna look over and just give me your thoughts, but again, I referred her to, the beach people involved with the, Department of Public Health.
Has anybody else, brought this up, or is this
No,
just?
it's just her. And there was an algae bloom a few years ago with the state, had apprised me of, but, there's not anything that we can really do, just post it to stay out of the water, don't, have any animals near it, things like that. But, I think she's saying it's being released into her area of Lake Manchog where it affects her business. So. But again, the state's involved now, so I just wanted to kind of bring it to the attention of the board and go from there.
Methane smell.
I know,
Hmm?
methane smell.
Methane, septic, whatever. Jim went out there.
That Methane was over. These
This
are
one's a
copies.
picture.
No, that's the only copy that she's got, but if you want, I can have her make copies for
No,
you
that's okay.
guys,
Did
so
you
you
see
can
this?
review them all.
Oh, there's just one chain, it's like all different.
Oh, I don't know, I thought they were all different, but she's called numerous times.
Oh, I see. I thought that we all had the same copy.
No,
Yeah.
no, they're all different. But we have responded to her.
But it's in the hands of the state now.
Right
so-
now, I'm playing telephone tag with him,
Did you
but,
see that?
she wanted a lot of information pertaining to that, for the Freedom of Information Act and things like that.
Is she satisfied with that the state's involved, or is that not really?
I don't know, I think her email's up there on the top, but, I think she's looking for some action about the release of water, which, you know, now that I'm talking about it, I probably could have referred her to the Bureau of Dams, Division of Dams. So I can think-
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. Adjourn we do.